We're podcasters of the peace, not soldiers. Hey, listen, and welcome to the ZeldaFilmcast. I'm your host, David Reese, in the show where we adventure across the realms of Hyrule and the silver screen. Welcome back, and we'll jump right into our random Zelda wiki. This is one I never played on the Wii U, but I did play on the Switch. I got the definitive edition. That's right, I'm talking about Hyrule Warriors. And our random wiki page today is a character you fight or encounter called Dark Impa, which, now thinking about it, actually has potential in a new Zelda story. If in a new Zelda game or in a new lore, a Dark Impa. Well, I mean, we have Dark Link, and I guess he doesn't really have lore or anything behind him. He just kind of appears in the other game that we're going to be playing, alternating with the episodes. But we'll jump right into that. We are alternating episodes. Today we are talking about Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. Yeah, I keep reminding myself, there's already been so much said about Star Wars. Like, there's very little ideas or thoughts I can put out there that haven't already been said, or conversations that already have been had. I can always compare it to Zelda. That's the lens of the show. I just got done watching it. It's obviously something I've seen before. It's not the strongest film of the prequels, but it's kind of charming if you like it. Take it as a love story, kinda, and if you like kind of how it sets up some aspects that we come across later in the series as well. Namely, we meet some people on Tatooine. It's world building. It's kind of like a Zelda sequel, like Tears of the Kingdom. It has ideas. It takes some swings, some land, some miss. More misses than what hits, unfortunately, for this one. Rewatching this kind of felt like playing a Zelda dungeon you haven't played in forever, where you remember the big parts of the dungeon, the center room, the mini boss, the item, maybe a puzzle or two. That you can kind of feel that same vibe when you're watching Attack of the Clones. You kind of know the set pieces, and you forget the little detail in between. I forgot it was so political. I forgot that in the scene with the meme where they're on Naboo and Anakin and Padme are out in the meadow, I forgot there was these weird giant tick creatures they were riding around. That looked kind of funny. Just little details like that. I forgot that we met a new queen of Naboo as they're discussing how the Senate won't vote on a Republic army. But that's kind of how people remember anything, right? Books you haven't read in a while, movies you haven't seen in a while, games you haven't played in a while. You always remember the big beats, maybe one or two charming things, and then a lot of the detail gets forgotten because it isn't really that important unless you make it more important by rewatching multiple times or learning more about it, if there's context to it. Okay, so let's go through the movie. Movie starts with an assassination attempt. Good old Padme, Natalie Portman. Movie starts, Natalie Portman. Her ship's landing in, coming to Coruscant. And then it explodes. Little did we know that it was a decoy and she's actually safe. And that kind of sets up the premise of the film. Some assassin, some group wants Senator Padme dead. There's some Dune adjacent stuff here at the beginning of the movie. They talk about separatist systems, galaxies, or not. Are they galaxies? No, they're more systems and planets that are separating from the Republic, and Padme is pushing for a Republic army. I guess to help keep the peace, because right now the only peacekeepers they have are the Jedi, and there's no way, if they lose resources and there becomes unrest, the Jedi will be able to maintain peace in the galaxy. One of the leaders of the Separatists is the Trade Federation. They talk about trade on spice moons. There's another assassination attempt with window slugs, which really remind me of Dune with the Hunter Seeker while Paul is sleeping, while Padme is sleeping. And that's a fun starting chase sequence. You're 15 minutes into the movie, and then you have this whole chase sequence in Coruscant in front of a green screen, in front of a bunch of riders, lots of cool effects. You see different parts of the city chasing the assassin. You get to go into some space club where right before they get the assassin, gets assassinated. Not ideal for trying to figure out who it was, but they got a clue, and the movie immediately splits into two storylines. We have the storyline of Anakin and Padme taking her to Naboo to where it's safe for her, and then we have the storyline of Detective Obi-Wan. So let's start with the storyline of Anakin and Padme. They decide, with another assassination attempt, it's time for her to go back to Naboo, where it's safe until things kind of blow over. She passes the torch over to Jar Jar, of all people. But I guess this movie is 10 years after the events of The Phantom Menace. They say that a few times in this movie. 10 years ago. He still talks funny, but I guess he's not the main comic relief of this movie. He gets very little screen time. So Jar Jar takes over as senator, and Padme and Anakin go to Naboo, where they basically spend time out at the lake house, bonding, talking about ideas. And we get this funny scene where they talk about when they're in the meadow, and there's the meme that comes for it on how politics should work. And he's like, well, people should just talk and agree. Think about what's for the greater good. And then she's like, that's exactly what politics is. And he's like, he kind of goes the authoritarian route, kind of the hinting at what is to come. But as they're on Naboo, he has a bad dream, or through the Force in a dream, he can feel his mom suffering and in pain. So that kind of starts their adventure. They go off to Tatooine to visit his mom, where they find Watto sold her years back. So they trace down where Shmi is. It's a moisture farmer. She married the guy that bought her and set her free. He had children. He had Owen and his girlfriend Beru that we'll see later on in the series. And he tells Anakin that how basically Shmi was taken, and this is where it gets real dark. Anakin he traces them down using his Jedi powers and detective skills, and finds his mom right before she dies, and in a fit of rage kind of silences the entire camp that she's at. Just undiscriminately, just everyone. So we kind of see some drama unfold there. And then we have Obi-Wan's adventure, where essentially he goes to the library. Library is the second one. At first, he goes to a diner where he knows the guy. And he shows the little dart to the diner guy. And the diner guy's like, yeah, they're the cleaners, the cloners, Camino. Look for it. It's located right here. Obi-Wan goes to the library. Planet's missing in the library. Talks to Yoda. Yoda's like, okay, children, Mr. Obi-Wan has lost a planet. How embarrassing. Some nice little light humor. There's a lot of humor that probably that lands more for children. Some of it's a little clever. A lot of it's kind of slapstick almost. This this movie is tonally more mature. I think that's to go with how Anakin's grown up over the last 10 years. But anyway, Obi-Wan's like, well, since I know where it is, let's go check out these. Let's go check it out. And that's where he finds the cloners, the clone army. We kind of have this sideline where it's more of a mystery detective work. And my Zelda comparison for this is it's kind of like when Zelda deviates a little from the genre, tries something a little different or new, like stealth sections, stealth mechanics, or if there's a tonal shift. Like all of a sudden you get to the part of a game where it's real dark and edgy, or kind of weird and zany that kind of doesn't fit in with the aesthetic of the game. Here we're getting mystery, kind of as Obi-Wan's doing his detective work to get this bounty hunter that ultimately leads him to Geonosis, where the Separatists and the Trade Federation are building a droid army and setting the table for the TV show, The Clone Wars. We have a knocking over of dominoes that leads the Jedi there to get Obi-Wan, Anakin, Padme. Yoda brings the clone army. The Separatist leader, Dooku, gets away. And at the very end, we have a nice, happy wedding scene. That's the quick and dirty. That's a quick overview of the movie. I'm not going to go scene for scene. There's some things to point out about. There's the realization as you're watching this, especially towards the end, you're like, wait, is the Republic actually the bad guys? Doku reveals that the Trade Federation used to be in with a Sith, and it's already under the influence of the Sith. And in a different scene, we see Yoda talking to Mace Windu, saying that their senses, their abilities with the Force aren't as they used to be. And Mace is like, do we tell the Senate that we're not able to do our job? And Yoda's like, no, the only ones that know are us and the Sith Lord doing this. And so we're learning that the Senate is already compromised, and that's why all these separatist factions are separating from the Senate to get away from the Sith Lord. And the Senate is using the Jedi, the peacekeepers, to try to force and coerce these separatists into remaining in the Republic. So from that perspective, I think it's fair if they think they need to leave, if the Jedi have lost their way, if they're blind to not see things that they should be, then it really is game over. And I bet that was George Lucas's goal of writing the script the way he did, to try to tell the story, kind of the downfall of the Republic. We also see Anakin's having some inner turmoil throughout the movie. He's frustrated with the Jedi, like Obi-Wan kind of talks down to him, doesn't he blatantly disobeys Obi-Wan, kind of does his own thing. He's a little reckless because he's young. He wants to be in control. He wants to be able to protect the people he wants. He's afraid of loss, and he really learns that he's afraid of loss with losing his mother. And that's part of the fun. My Zelda tie-in is the silent protagonist, Link. They purposely don't give Link dialogue and lines in the games. They want, in a few interviews, they've talked about having the character of Link act as a avatar for the player, where you can kind of project your own dialogue and emotions and scenery on him and see how Link really would feel or react. More recently, in some games more than others, they introduce more emotion, more feeling to Link, especially like Wind Waker. They really mastered like the eyes and him feeling more animated like a cartoon. But even in Ocarina of Time, you can see some moments where Link is scared or is shook. He has some emotions. And what else to talk about? Some weak points of the film have already been done to death. I'm not gonna hammer those out. I can think I've kind of covered the Zelda stuff. The weak stuff, obviously, the dialogue feels awkward. The romance scenes could have been finer tuned. The early technology, that early CGI did not age well. Is it worth revisiting? It a requirement if you're watching the prequels or if you're going to watch all the Star Wars movies. You can't exclude this one. It really does have a lot of cornerstones that you can't skip. It's also a time capsule on what early 2000 movies, what a blockbuster looked like. And it's fun. I mean, I talk down on it, but it explores some things, namely like the detective arc. The romance stuff is not George Lucas's strong suit. He made an attempt at, like putting different genres into it. Right now, combining genres is really popular, and he tried doing that with this Attack of the Clones movie, and it just didn't land. So we're going to leave the episode there. Send a message, send a question to ZeldaFilmcast@gmail.com. We'll talk about it. But as always, thanks for listening, and may the Triforce be with you.